part, we see the remaining dimensions of Mauryan Empire: economy, society, religion, and their administration. We also see in the end art and culture, the contribution of Mauryas towards art and culture, and also we see the factors for declining of such a great empire. This is the Mauryan Empire in 250 BCE. It was such a great empire, a vast empire, and it has got natural resources, immense natural resources. And it has so many territories to be taken care of. So it has taken care of welfare of people, and the society was so dynamic and so diverse in nature. So Mauryan Empire has got a potential challenge to unify such a great diverse terrain. All these are different aspects which we have to see in this part. First, we will see the economy. As we have seen, it is a great empire and vast empire. It has got different natural resources like water resource, soil resources, iron ore mines, and forest resources. Based on these natural resources, they developed different kinds of industries. Those industries we broadly divide into like forest based resource, like wood, based on raw material wood, carpentry developed, chariot making. So this kind of artisans developed. With elephants, ivory craft was a major and a sophisticated craftsmanship during Mauryan period. Second one is pastoral based. Pastoral based cattle wealth was promoted, and by this time, due to Buddhism and Jainism, the Vedic sacrifices were also limited in the society. So it has given a chance to promote cattle wealth, and leather industry developed. And agriculture based industries also developed. Weaving, textile industry got immense promotion in the Mauryan period. Different areas got different styles of cloth making, and these cloths were even exported to other neighboring territories, neighboring kingdoms like Syria, Macedonia, Egypt. Another one was based on metal industry. Iron, copper, silver based smith craftsmanship developed during this period. After this agriculture and the industrial development, trade got promoted. The most important aspect of trade was usage of coins, punch marked coins. In earlier times, barter system was used to exchange. Now, the monetary economy has come. With this, the coins were used even for giving salaries also. Punch marked coins were printed with symbols like hill, crescent, and peacock. Some of the images which were printed on the punch marked coins were hills, crescent, and peacock. These coins were used as a medium of exchange, and it has given immense trade, and it led to creation of internal trade as well as external trade as well. During Mauryan period, people exported cloths during the ports like Bharigaja in Gujarat, Maharashtra, West Bengal, Odisha. Ports also got developed. Through these ports, they exported their material towards west Mesopotamia and Iraq side. That is now Seleucus Nicator Empire. and towards east, Southeastern Empire. So from this Tamralipti towards this side, towards western side. A new kind of towns also got developed during this time, like Pataliputra, Kaushambi, Shravasti. These are some of the important. Ujjain, Takshila. These major town centers acted as dry ports. The transportation system also, the Uttarapada, Dakshinapada, it got developed into two kinds of roads, Dakshinapada and Uttarapada. Through Dakshinapada, Pataliputra, Kaushambi and Ujjaini and reached south, and towards north, Pataliputra, Kaushambi and towards Takshila, and it reached Central Asia and Seleucus Nicator Empire. This is how the economy under Mauryan Empire flourished due to various raw material availability and also law and order. It was most of the subcontinent was under single rule. Law and order was maintained and unified laws were also maintained. Because of all these factors, economy flourished under Mauryan Empire. Now we see the society of Mauryan Empire. The society, it was a continuation of the society of early period. After later Vedic period, we have seen entire system, entire society was divided into four varnas: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudras. Here one important aspect of Mauryan period was, before Mauryan period, most of the Vaishyas were involved, most of the Sudras were involved in as laborers. Vaishyas were involving in artisan, agriculture and trade. Now by Mauryan time, many Sudras entered into agriculture. They got promoted. Shudras got promoted in the Varna system. They became agriculture. Most of the people now involved in agrarian activities and artisan activities. The fundamental Varna system was there: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. However, in theoretically it was there, but in practice many Shudras were not only laborers, now they also started practicing agriculture and they were involving in industrial activity as well. Education during Mauryan period, Pataliputra, Ujjain became major important educational centers. Takshila was anyway, it was a major important center since 700 BC. So Takshila was continuing and continued to be an important educational center. The condition of women was also improved. They were having the accessibility to the Stridhana which they get during their marriage time. But overall, the Shastras and the Brahmanical religion have some kind of restriction on women. If we see the women condition from Vedic period to later Vedic period, during early Vedic period, the women enjoyed more liberty comparing with later Vedic period. If we compare women condition with the early Vedic period, the women condition during Mauryan times was not very liberal comparing with early Vedic period. However, they were having some kind of property resources like Stridhana. And we come to slavery. Megasthenes mentioned there was no slavery in the Mauryan period. However, there was slavery in the society. It was mentioned in Ardhashastra as well. And after Kalinga, Ashoka took the prisoners of wars and they were taken as slaves, and they were given new settlements, new agricultural settlements, and they were used as royal laborers. So slavery was there during Mauryan period. Now come to the religion. The Vedic practices were continuing. However, with emergence of Buddhism and Jainism, the Vedic sacrifices were reduced in the society. Now, if we see Chandragupta Maurya, Kautilya was a Brahman. In the Mauryan period, all these religions got a chance to flourish. Ashoka promoted Buddhism. Chandragupta Maurya promoted Jainism and also Samprati. These two rulers promoted Jainism. Ajivika sect was promoted by Bindusara and Dasharatha. Dasharatha has donated some of the caves to the Ajivika sect. Maurya also dedicated some of the caves to Ajivika sect. During Ashoka time, Buddhism has become an international religion. He has created some officials to promote Buddhism across the continents. So this is how the religion during Mauryan period flourished from 321 BC to 185 BC. Now we see the administration of the Mauryan period. King was the most powerful one. King was having absolute powers. He was an autocrat. He was a monarch. He was having absolute powers. He was the legislator. He was executive. And his court is the highest appeal of judiciary. So he was having absolute powers. If we compare with the modern powers like legislative, executive and judiciary, all these powers were highly centralized in the hands of the king. However, they were maintaining Mantri Parishad. Mantri Parishad and officers for official duties. This bureaucracy, as we have seen, it was a vast empire. So many economic activities were involved in the empire. To regulate the different economic activities, Mauryan Empire has created a new officers called Adhyakshas. Adhyaksha for agriculture, one kind of Adhyaksha called Sitadhyaksha. For mining, one kind of Adhyaksha. For tax collection, one kind of Adhyaksha. So different kinds of Adhyaksha. There were 27 Adhyakshas during Mauryan period. So different officers were there. It was highly centralized bureaucracy. King was absolute in nature. King was the most powerful one. Centralized administration. A vast bureaucracy was maintained. They also maintained a strong army. A strong army. The literary sources said they maintained 6 lakh people as infantry. 60,000 cavalry, means horses, and 9,000 elephants and 8,000 chariots. So they maintained a huge army. Given the circumstances of 3rd century BCE, maintaining such a vast army was really a great achievement for any empire. They also have a good land revenue policies. First they measure the land, proper measurement, and then taxation, and they maintain treasure. Sannidata, 2 important officers like Samaharta and Sannidata, these 2 important officials were involving in revenue assessment and revenue collection. They had welfare policies as well. Ashoka constructed roads, wells, planted trees, these kind of welfare activities, and hospitals also constructed during Ashoka time period. So if we observe the overall administration of Mauryan Empire, king was enjoying absolute powers. They were maintaining a vast and centralized bureaucracy. They maintained a strong army, and their revenue policies were modern in nature. They had officers for measuring the land and assessing the land and collecting the land revenue. And also, not only the land revenue, they imposed taxes on various economic activities, on like traders, toll tax, different taxation. They also maintained welfare policies. They constructed hospitals, roads, wells, and trees. They planted trees along the roads. These were some of the welfare policies followed by Mauryan rulers. Along with these developments, they also promoted art and culture. Ashoka, the pillars, broadly they can be divided into pillar architecture, stupas, cave architecture, sculpture, and palace. Palace we can find in Kumrahar. It was a wooden palace. Even Megasthenes mentioned about this. Even Phaion also mentioned about this Mauryan palace. Sculpture, like rock sculpture Elephanta near Orissa, Didarganj, Yakshini are two important examples of Mauryan sculpture. Caves, Barabar Caves, Nagarjuni Hill. In two places we find cave architecture. These caves were dedicated to Ajivika sect for their rest places. So these Barabar caves and Nagarjuni hills are near the capital of Mauryan, Pataliputra and Rajagriha, and these were having the great entrances. They were sculpted very delicately. So these two were examples of cave architecture of Mauryan Empire. And stupas are also constructed. According to Phaion, 84,000 stupas. According to Huansang, 84,000 stupas were constructed by Ashoka. Even though it is an exaggerated number, there is no doubt that he constructed stupas. Stupas were resting places of Buddha's relics. Buddha relics were taken, and on the relics stupas were constructed. So they were worshipping places for Buddhist people. Important stupas like Barhut Stupa, Sanchi Stupa, Amaravati Stupa, Takshila Stupa were some of the examples of stupas of Mauryan period. Most important and a great architecture achievement was pillars. They quarried from Madura and Chunar. They quarried sandstone from Madura and Chunar, and they sculpted into a monolithic pillar. Monolithic means single pillar, and on those pillars they engraved Ashokan pillars having inscriptions of Ashoka. So this was one of the greatest achievement of Mauryas. It is also said that these pillars having the inspiration of Achaemenid pillars. Now we see the factors for decline of Mauryan Empire. It was such a vast empire. How such a vast empire declined within 50 years after the exit of Ashoka? Ashoka died in 232 BC. Within 50 years, the Mauryan Empire got declined. There were different theories. H.P. Shastri said it was a Brahmanical revolt. The last ruler was Brihadrada. He was killed by commander-in-chief Pushyamitra Shunga. Pushyamitra Shunga was a Brahmin. He was the commander-in-chief of Brihadrada army, and he killed the king in front of entire army. Based on this, H.P. Shastri theorized that Brahmanical revolt was a major reason for the decline of Mauryan Empire. However, we cannot take it as the reason, because Ashoka, he not only encouraged Buddhism, but he promoted other like Vedic philosophies and Ajivika sect and other Shramana traditions. He promoted unity in diversity concept. He asked people to respect the knowledge persons like Brahmins. So there is no reason to believe that the Mauryan Empire persecuted Brahmanical religion. Hence, there was a great Brahmanical revolt. And finally, it led to the decline of Mauryan Empire. H.C. Roy Choudhury said, it was Ashoka Dhamma. Because of Ashoka Dhamma, he did not use army, and army became very weak. There were no wars after Kalinga war. Because of this, the neighboring kingdoms or neighboring invaders invaded the Mauryan Empire and caused decline of the Mauryan Empire. However, practically, army was maintained. Even though he promoted Dhamma, he maintained strong army, and it was maintained even after Ashoka as well. D.D. Kosambi said there was a great financial crisis in the Mauryan Empire because Ashoka has used treasury of the state to promote Buddhism, and consequently he wasted a lot of resources. However, there is no strong evidence to prove this again. Broadly, the declining of Mauryan Empire can be grouped like the successors of Ashoka could not maintain the law and order, they could not maintain the natural resources, they could not maintain proper administration. This has created opportunities in the minds of other people, and the vassals like Satavahanas, Pushyamitra Sungas, Kanvas, they were waiting for an opportunity to declare independence from Mauryan Empire. So these people were once serving the Mauryan Empire. After the weak successors came in the Mauryan Empire after Ashoka's exit, these people becoming stronger and they became rulers. Hence, any single particular reason cannot be attributed for the decline of Mauryan Empire. So this is about Mauryan Empire. We have seen that the boundaries of the empire, different rulers of the empire, and also different neighboring countries of the empire, and other dimensions like economy, society, art and culture, and finally the causes for decline of Mauryan Empire.